Each episode of Education with an Edge is meant to create, cultivate, and inspire honest discussion about issues affecting youth. Hosted by author, artist, educator, advocate, and speaker, Jaquel Lane.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jaquel Lane, and I am the hostess of Education with an Edge, the podcast dedicated to all things youth and children because they are what matters and they are our future. I am so excited to be here with my good friend, Tasha Toste. She has been an advocate for body positivity and mental health for 10 years. As a contestant in the Miss America organization, she has created a platform, Perfectly Imperfect, that teaches young adults about loving themselves and taking care of their mental, emotional, and physical health. Today, she continues to use social media as a way to advocate for body positivity and mental health awareness. She is married to her husband, Nick, and lives in Omaha with their 2 fur babies, Piper and Rizzo. She currently works at Spreetail as a recruiter, helping people find jobs that they love. Welcome, Tasha. I'm so happy you're here.
I am so happy you asked me to be on your podcast. I love listening to it, and I feel so fortunate to be able to be a guest and get to talk with you today.
Well, I just love you, and our guests are going to too, because you have such an energetic spirit, but you've also just got this personality that draws people to you, and you can feel it obviously when someone meets you, but also through your social media. You're such a positive force to be reckoned with, and so we need that in today's world, so thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you again, and thank you for creating this podcast. As I said, I love listening to it. I think you're making such a big difference in the world, so thank you.
Thank you, friend. Since this podcast is dedicated to inspiring and encouraging youth, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Tasha, and about your background?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a very small town in western Nebraska. A whopping 600 people. And I always mention that because I really think it's why I am who I am today. I grew up with a family that worked multiple jobs, strong work ethic, and I was fortunate enough to actually be a first generation college graduate because of the work ethic that being from a small town taught me. So I graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in 2015 with a degree in human resources, and I work as a recruiter, as you said. But really where my story comes and what we'll focus on today is my platform that I created while I competed in the Miss America organization. I started at 13 and created a platform called Perfectly Imperfect. The focus at the time originally was just around body positivity, but as I grew and learned a lot about myself, it really morphed into a lot more than that. I learned how body positivity is so important, but it plays into your mental, your physical, and your emotional health, and all of those things have to all be in line and taken care of for you to feel good about who you are.
Being a 6th grade English language arts teacher and just seeing what youth go through on a daily basis, but also just adults as well. I think that is such an important topic and something that's not talked about enough, quite frankly. And so I love that you're bringing that to the forefront. And I also love the fact that this started when you were 13, but it's such a powerful movement that it's been able to kind of morph with you as you grew and obviously experience different changes and challenges in your own life. And so thank you for being willing to share those with us today.
No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I didn't know what it would look like when I quit competing. I do compete today as a Mrs., but when I was finished competing at 24 in the Miss America organization, I knew it was still important to me, but I didn't know what that was going to look like for me and how I was going to be able to continue that. I am fortunate enough to be on the board of a nonprofit in Lincoln called Selfie that has a very similar background, but also have just known that I want to continue talking about it through my own social media platform and just reaching as many people as I can.
Absolutely. And you are reaching so many people by just sharing your story and your advocacy through mental health and body positivity. And, we think about when we're growing up, how did we overcome obstacles or how did you know what path to take maybe? So who was an important mentor in your life and how did they help you?
Yeah, so I think I had 2. My mom is the first one. I know a typical answer, but I think she is created the woman I am today through who she is as a person. She has the strongest work ethic. She's had her own struggles with mental health, and I really am fortunate and I'm healthy in here today because she advocated for me and taught me so much and got me the help I needed and was always there during my struggles. The other person, and this is more of a professional mentor, but I think it's important to mention her because she taught me how to be a strong businesswoman and a strong advocate for myself. Her name is Tessa Clark. She was my first boss as an intern, and then my first boss at my first job out of college. And she taught me such important basic life things like negotiation of salary, how to present myself as a woman in business. And I think I take a lot of what she taught me, and I don't even realize it, into my own advocacy for mental health and for myself in the workplace.
Absolutely. And I think that's, so shout out to your mom
Yes.
as well. But I love what you say about your first internship and your first boss, because I think oftentimes we just don't know as women how to go about, as you said, negotiating for your salary or advocating for yourself in the workplace. It's not something that's necessarily taught in college. That's such a life skill that's so very important. And so I'm interested, even coming out of this season of COVID-19, like how important we've seen that be in the workplace. And so to have someone like you that's still advocating for that and that's saying, we need more mental health assistance for people that are struggling, that are just going through day-to-day things in the workplace, it really does need to be addressed. Whereas I think several years ago, it was kind of like, we don't talk about that. And there was like a shame
Absolutely.
Component to that, which is so unhealthy. And we're seeing that.
Well, even as a mental health advocate that I've been for 10 years, I just in the last couple of years started admitting to my boss when I was taking a mental health day. I would lie up into probably 2 years ago and say, oh, I have the stomach flu, or I have a cold, or this and that. I recently finally got to the point where I was like, why am I saying that? This is just like my physical health. I can say, I am struggling. I just need a mental health day. I need to take the day off. This is where I'm at today, and I can't do my job well, so I'm going to take the day off. And so many people are afraid to do that, and I don't know why. I've always, when I started doing it, my bosses were so receptive to it. They were like, yeah, great. Take care of yourself. Take the time you need. Take a step away. And I think that more people need to hear that.
I do too, and I think that if more companies and professions acknowledge the fact that their employees will come back even better the next day, instead of just powering through, because that's the most unhealthy thing that you can do, right? Yep. I really commend you for your work in bringing that to the forefront of topics in society, because it's so very important, especially right now with what people are going through.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, you have a career that you love, and one thing that we like to do on Education with an Edge is kind of just dig into people's backgrounds and how kind of maybe your career path. You mentioned internships and things like that, because I think oftentimes young people are like, I don't know what I want to do. And so it's always fun and inspiring to hear different individuals' careers and how they got there. So you have a career that you love. Can you tell us a little bit about your educational background and how you arrived at your current profession?
Absolutely. So I went into college with the mindset that I was going to become a lawyer. That was what I had been saying since I was probably 13 years old.
Me too. Did not work out that way.
Nope, didn't work out for me either. I actually was a political science major when I first went to college, and as much as I loved political science, I thought it was interesting. I took a step back after freshman year of college and was like, I don't actually know what I would do with this degree if I didn't become a lawyer, and what if I don't? And so I transferred to the business college and was an econ major. Again, don't think I actually knew what economics was. Took one class and I was like, oh, nope, that's hard no for me. I am not good at this. And so I was like, oh, but business is good. I like business. I'd been involved in FBLA in high school, so I had some exposure to business, and changed my degree to management with an emphasis in HR and a minor in marketing. I always, though, tell, because I am a recruiter, and I've recruited high school students and college students for a lot of years, and I always tell them I am probably an exception in a lot of cases. I actually work in pretty much exactly what I studied, but there are so many people that don't. Just because you got a degree in something doesn't mean that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because I probably won't be a recruiter for the rest of my life. And I just right now fit into my perfect little box that I studied today, but it's okay if you don't. I interview people all the time with degrees that are so opposite of what the field they're in today. And I think it's important for young adults to hear, because I think when you graduate college, you're like, well, this is what I studied and this is what I'm going to do forever. And that just isn't most people's life trajectory. So I really had an interesting, in my own mind, I guess, interesting trajectory in how I went. I had an internship at a really amazing company in Lincoln called Talent Plus that does talent assessments. Fell in love with that world. Took a job right out of college, but the job I took, I'd actually been doing as an intern for 2 years. And when I was expected to do it 40 hours a week, I realized I didn't love it anymore. And I, after a year, took a job as a travel nurse recruiter. And I cannot say enough amazing things about that job. I am the recruiter I am today, but it was not the right role for me. I was making 110 calls a day, and I couldn't do it. There's a lot of people that can, and they do it well, but it wasn't for me. I'm a passion, mission-driven person, and I realized I couldn't sell the mission of multiple hospitals to people because I don't know the mission of every hospital I'm working with. So I realized that there was such thing as a corporate recruiter. So recruiting for one business, for one mission, and that's what I went into. So I today work for the most amazing company out of Lincoln. It's called Spreetail, and I love what I do. I help people find jobs that they love at a great company that takes care of their people and focuses on relationships. But it wasn't a perfect trajectory. I actually interviewed there right out of college for a recruitment position, got turned down, honestly cried for like 3 days about it. And today I work at that company and I get to be there, but I don't think I could have done the job I do today without the experience I had in between.
And I love that. I love what you said, because my experience was similar on how I arrived in education and what I'm supposed to be doing now and things like that. And oftentimes I think people or young people would look at you and say, totally has it all together. And that was just handed to her. And that's just, I mean, that's just who she was meant to be. And she always, whatever, but it's not always that easy. And so I love you sharing that story that you interviewed with that company with Spreetail and then didn't get it, but you learned so much throughout your other positions that made you so much better at what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So every single obstacle, you will eventually get to where you're meant to be, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the point, right?
That is the point. I also probably should say my husband is the one that had this realization for me, so I can't say that I came to the realization 100% by myself. He brought it all back up to me when I got my job as Spreetail and reminded me that I got where I was today because of the jobs I had in between. And all those jobs were great, and I can't say enough great things about them, but Spreetail was just always a place that I wanted to be, and I knew I wanted to be, and it just took a couple extra years to get there.
Absolutely. What is one of the biggest obstacles? We kind of talked about in career a little bit, but what is one of the biggest obstacles in your life, and how have you overcome it?
My biggest obstacle is myself. It always has been, always will be. I am my biggest advocate, but also my biggest critic. And sometimes I stop myself from doing things that I should do. I take a step back, and rather than, going for something or going for something full out because I'm afraid I'm going to fail, I stop myself, or I go in with the mindset, well, you're probably not going to get this job, or you're probably not going to win this. And honestly, in those cases, I usually don't, because I'm not going into it full-heartedly. I'm not going into it and giving my full self into what I'm doing. And so I have learned that over the years that I can't stop myself. I can't put those walls up myself. I'm the only person that's going to advocate for myself, and I'm the only one that's going to be able to get myself where I want to be. And why am I telling myself I can't get there?
I think there's like a speaker that I listen to, and they always say, there's so many people that will be against you in the real world. Don't be against yourself, right?
Yep.
And how often do we do that? Do we say, well, I couldn't possibly do that, or I couldn't, it really 100% comes back to confidence and from that belief in yourself. And if you can love yourself and you can believe in yourself, then you can get anywhere from there, you know, and you're absolutely a testament to that. So thank you for sharing that. What advice would you give to a young person going through a difficult time right now?
Yeah, so this is, I think, so important. And as adults, I think sometimes we say, when a young person is going through something, we're so quick to say, hey, it's okay. You know, you're going to get past this. And 2 years from now, you're not going to care. We forget that in that moment, it A, matters so much, and B, what kids go through today is nothing like what I went through 15 years ago at their age. It is just isn't. They live in a completely different world with challenges that I can't even imagine being a part of. And so I think we were just so quick to tell them that it's just going to be okay, rather than allowing them to say, hey, it's okay, but you also should feel what you're feeling. And I think I would tell them to find a person, find an adult, and that can be an aunt, an uncle, your parents, a teacher, someone that you trust that you know is going to advocate for you and get you the help you need, whether that's just a shoulder to cry on and to talk to, or maybe it's talking to a professional. That's okay. All of those things are okay, but just to have the advocate and that person that's going to acknowledge and tell you what you're feeling is okay, but also get you the help that you need.
I think that's such sound advice because, and I love that you said that, because I'm totally guilty of doing that with students or whatever, that I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like you're not going to even think about this, in like a month or two, but it breaks my heart. And in the moment for them, that's the most important thing. Somebody breaks up with you and that's the most important thing. You think that your life is over. And so it's so easy for us, because we have gone as adults through different obstacles and challenges that we're thinking, that's the least of your worries, honey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we really can't do that. And so that's such sound advice to find someone that you can trust, whether that's, a mentor or a parent or a teacher or someone, a really good friend that you can talk to and work through those things with, because it doesn't mean that they're any less important, that your feelings aren't any less important.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge those feelings, because I think we forget as adults that we are who we are today and where we are today because we got past those, but we had to acknowledge them and get past them and accept them to get to where we are today, and they have to go through those same struggles, but it's the acknowledgement that that is a struggle and you got past it to get to the person you are today.
I love that. What is one motto or quote that you live by?
Yeah, it has been my motto for, I think 10 years. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I love that quote for so many reasons, because it acknowledges that you can't get somewhere unless you start. And as I've already said, I'm someone that stops myself from doing something because I'm afraid of failure. So I have to start at A, but also I think when we take a step back and see where we got today, sometimes we forget all the steps we took and how important those steps were and how we don't acknowledge them. We're just like, this is the end goal. This is where I need to be. And we don't just take a step back in where we are today and appreciate and celebrate those moments. And I think that quote kind of says it all, that each step should be celebrated. Each journey should be celebrated. Even if, you're step or two away from that final goal, acknowledge and celebrate where you are today.
I think that I love that motto, first of all, and I haven't heard that in a long time. So that's so beautiful. But also, I think that anytime, and you're obviously a very high achiever, I think if, to those young people that are very high achievers and they have very lofty goals, which I think can be really great, but I think also sometimes those types of people don't stop and celebrate and do exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You don't look back and say, I'm super proud of myself for how far I've come. You're so fixated on the goal. So that's such important advice and such a great motto that, you have to celebrate every single victory along the way.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you would like to be remembered for, Miss Tasha?
There's a couple of different things, but I think the most important thing is, and it's going to be cliche, but making an impact on people's lives. And it comes in my job, in what I do. I want the people that I work with every day to remember me as a recruiter that helped them get to the job they wanted to get, even if it's not with my company, but also in just the people I interact with on social media, the people I interact with every day. I want them to know that I made a difference and I was able to make an impact and change in their life, even in a small way, and just hopefully make their lives better.
That is, and honestly, from someone that knows you, from someone that's followed your journey, I can honestly say that you're living out that passion and purpose every single day in what you do. And you're such an example. And this podcast will be such an example for young people. So thank you for being authentic and real, and just, you're very sweet self always, Tasha. And we're so very just happy and honored that you were able to be with us here today on Education with an Edge. Where can our guests follow you and find out more about what you're doing in your community? I didn't want to say too much, but I know that you're running for Mrs. Nebraska next year, so we want to support you and follow you, and also all of the wonderful things. This woman volunteers so very much in her community and is giving back in really big ways, so you're going to want to check out what she's doing.
Well, thank you. So I have a Facebook page, Tasha Toste, Mrs. Metro. Need to update it. It says 2020 still, but it will say 2022 pretty soon. As well as my personal Instagram, Mrs. Tasha Toste. I also have recently started a separate Instagram called Pages of Their Story, where you can share your own personal story anonymously about mental health, physical health, eating disorders, anything like that. So follow that, check it out, and if you feel so inclined to share a story anonymously, I'd love to get an email from you. All that information is on the Instagram.
I love that. That's a beautifu idea too.
Thank you.
What is it's called?
Pages of Their Stories.
Pages of Their Stories. That is beautiful. What an awesome concept. Well, Ms. Tasha Toste, thank you for being us here today. We are going to for sure follow you and be excited to see all of the wonderful things that you're doing in the future. She's certainly a young woman to watch. And this is Jaquel Lane, and I am your hostess with Education with an Edge. We're so grateful that you were able to join us here today, and we will see you next time.
If you have a question or just want to learn more, go to jaquellane.com. Thanks for listening to Education with an Edge,
a Huda Media production.